Dr. John with the Healthy MD back again. Again, Happy New Year. Trying to be more consistent with posting my videos and keeping up with some of the information, because I know a lot of people have those New Year's resolutions, and sometimes folks struggle with how to get started, especially if we're looking at intermittent fasting or low carb or keto or any of those quote diets, which really I think is more of a lifestyle issue. But one of the things I wanted to do today was do more of a question and answer session and kind of answer some of the questions or comments I'm seeing on one of my videos. So one of the videos I have is called Autophagy and Intermittent Fasting for Loose Skin. It's the most popular video that I have on the channel, at least right now. Hopefully that changes, but I've gotten a lot of really good comments on there, and so just kind of wanted to go through the comments that are on there and kind of give my take on those and give a little bit more feedback on what my thought process was or what other people are commenting, and then hopefully try to clear up some of those questions that folks have and kind of move forward from there. So one of the first questions I got, let me just scroll back through, was talking about the difference between how to balance autophagy, which is kind of, again, self-eating of the body or cellular, where the cells actually clean themselves out, that we see with folks that are fasting, and usually for about 16 to 24 hours. But if you want more information, then you should see a couple of videos pop up in the corner there that you can look at. But the commenter's questions was looking at autophagy and balancing that with the benefit you get with MTOR, which is a protein really important as far as muscle building. And there's kind of this balance that we have between the two. MTOR definitely helps for protein synthesis, muscle building. There is some concern, though, that kind of unrestricted MTOR activation may lead to cancers and some other health problems. So again, with everything else in life, everything in moderation, including moderation. So how do you balance autophagy with MTOR? And I think really it comes down to having defined days where you're doing your fasting and defined days where you're actually not fasting, but making sure that you eat a high quality diet on those days that you're not fasting. And I think one of the mistakes I see with some folks is that they continue to calorie restrict on the days that they're not fasting. So their overall caloric intake for the week is still really low, and that actually has some impact as far as on hormonal balance. So again, what you want to do is do the fasting and then have recovery. Let your body go back into homeostasis, kind of normal hormonal function. You don't want to keep everything suppressed for too long. Otherwise, you're going to notice that you're going to get a slowing of your metabolism. It's going to be harder to lose that weight, and there's going to be some other issues to do that. That'll lead into that. So one of the things with mTOR activation is making sure you're eating high quality protein on those non-fasting days. And what you usually need to do is probably somewhere between 0.6 to 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So for someone like myself, that's well over 200 grams of protein a day. And obviously, fat, a little bit of carbs with that as well too. But I want to make sure I get that mTOR activation so I can build muscle, because I still work out, I still go to the gym. And so I think that's the way that you need to kind of balance that, is make sure that you're concentrating on a decent protein intake on those days that you're not fasting, and really try to get your calories up and be at least at or above what your daily caloric requirements would be, because you need to make up for those days that you've been fasting as well too. And if you look back over the week, if you add up all your days as far as caloric intake, it should pretty much add up so it averages what it should be if you're just eating ad lib or eating normally every day for your daily requirements with that as well too. So another question I had from someone else was, how often can you do intermittent fasting? And it really depends on what we're talking about for intermittent fasting. If we're talking about more of the time-restricted eating or time-restricted feeding, which is usually restricting your eating and your fasting within the same day. And so a lot of folks will do like 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating whatever they want, or maybe 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating, which falls probably more into the OMAD or 1 meal a day crowd. You can do that pretty much every day. Again, as long as you're hitting calorie requirements. What you don't want to do is be one of these people that are out there eating maybe 1,000 calories a day if they're a woman, or 1,500 calories a day if they're a male and active. That's way too low, and you're going to get some suppression of your hormones that are not going to be beneficial from a health standpoint. So Intermittent fasting, if you're doing time restricted eating, I think you can do it every day. If you're doing 24-hour fast, I would say from that standpoint, every other day would be the most. I'd recommend to anybody to do that. And even then, maybe twice a week, I think would be more ideal, because again, you get into the whole issue of, are you getting enough calories in to begin with? And the way I think about it is, think about your car filled up with gas. If you're coasting down the hill, you're not using any gas or very little gas, right? So you get great gas mileage. But if you turn back around, try to go back up that hill, you're going to need that gas to get back up the hill. So I think the same thing with eating and fasting is that you still need to get the calories in to feed the muscles, to give you that energy, to support proper hormonal levels, so you don't run into any issues with that. So I think that kind of talks about that. And then you had some people talk about extended fast. And I know there's other docs out there who are much smarter than I am, so like Jason Fung, people like that. Extended fast, I think you have to be very, very careful with. And you absolutely, at least in my mind, should be doing that under physician supervision. It's not something I would recommend you go out on your own. I've actually, in the past, seen patients come into urgent care or ERs that have had issues trying to do these fasts on their own, or they've been on a protein sparing modified fast and weren't following up and getting lab work done. And you can actually put yourself into kidney failure or liver failure. So there is a potential for some serious health issues if you're not getting close medical follow-up, or just having someone you're checking in with who's medically trained to say, hey, you know what, I think you've gone too far with it. And that's to say these extended fasts is where people are doing it 3 days, 4 days. People talk about dry fast, and I don't want to get into that too much here, but again, I think that kind of goes into the same issue as far as, dry fast is no water as well too. And I think there's some issues with that. You need to be under some type of medical supervision to do that. I wouldn't recommend that you go out and do that on your own at all. And I think one of the other issues that one of the commenters had comments on the article or on the video was also that they're running into issues with their extended fast, and you get to 36 or 38 hours and start feeling lightheaded and dizzy. So usually the first two things I would think about, dehydration, are they getting enough water in? And number two, what was their electrolyte intake? Because if you're not getting enough electrolytes, and that's sodium, potassium, magnesium, kind of other multivitamins you'd find in multivitamins as well too, you can run into issues with that too. So again, going back to my first disclaimer, make sure if you're doing something like that, you've at least talked to your physician and have a good plan out of what to do with that, because some people can do it. A lot of people don't have issues, but there are people out there that are going to have medical complications if they're not supervised properly. And it's hard to tell just by looking at someone, hey, you're okay, hey, you're not. Obviously, if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, medical problems, absolutely positively make sure that you get clearance from your physician or medical provider before you go ahead and try any of these extended fasts, just to rule out or prevent any type of medical complication. One of the other comments I had, and this is actually a good one, I didn't really think about this when I was doing the video because I was focused more on just talking about autophagy, is how to prevent from becoming underweight when I do the fasting, is essentially what the question was. And that's a great question, because I think it goes back to some of my earlier comments of, you need to make sure you're getting enough calories on your non-fasting days. Again, the folks I see that are kind of chronically underweight or can't put weight on or aren't doing well with this intermittent fasting, if I have them do a diet history and look at what they eat on their non-fasting days, very, very low caloric intake. And again, that's just a setup for kind of this chronic undernutrition that they're going to have. So if you want to avoid being underweight, you need to make sure you're eating enough on your off days or on your non-fasting days. That gets a little tough for vegetarians or vegans. And so for them, really focus on getting healthy fats, so adding olive oil, avocado oil, things like that into the diet, because the fats obviously have a much more calorically dense, so it's easier to get more calories in. Making sure you're getting enough protein in as well too, because I think that's the other thing, especially if vegan vegetarians sometimes don't get enough protein in as well, so they're really going more on the salads, vegetables, and really avoiding protein and avoiding the healthy fats. I think those two are really important to make sure that you do have enough of both of those macronutrients to make sure that you're able to maintain a weight or even put weight on. And I think that kind of leads into this comment that someone else had left, is how to do intermittent fasting for health and not for weight loss. And again, I think the commenter was asking more about, okay, how do I get into autophagy but not lose weight with it if I'm already at my goal weight? So again, making sure you have days where you're doing the fasting, but days where you're also kind of tracking, what you're taking in from a dietary standpoint. And again, making sure that you're eating enough on those other days. And sometimes it's tough because one of the things, especially with low carb or keto diets, or when people are fasting, it really drops that drive for hunger. And people can go the entire day and just, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I haven't had anything to eat, and they have a very light meal. On those days where I'm not fasting, I make sure I have breakfast right away, because that kind of triggers my hunger for the rest of the day and makes it where I'm able to get my calories in. On the days if I forget to do that because I'm busy or doing work or whatever, and kind of go work out or whatever it is and skip breakfast, I do find those days I don't get enough calories in, and I notice it the next couple days, whether I'm working out or just what my mental process is as far as how clear I'm thinking, things like that. I find that over a couple days of that, I just not as sharp as I'd like to be. So I think there's got to be a little bit of recovery for the body. So again, making sure you get enough calories on those non-fasting days to kind of make up for the days you're fasting. So again, it has to pretty much average out there. I hate to use the calories in, calories out, but I think for this type of example, that's maybe one way to think about it. But looking at it, calories in, calories out over the entire week, and does it average out day over day, and making sure you're getting enough calories to make up for those non-fasting or for those fasting days as well too. So those are just some of the comments I got on the intermittent fasting and autophagy video. You can see the video up here if you haven't seen it. Make sure you give a comment, give a like, subscribe. That's how we get more views here. I'll be back with more tips. Again, hey, I'm Dr. John with the Healthy MD. Happy New Year, and looking forward to keeping you guys all healthy, or helping you guys keep yourselves healthy.